everyone, and welcome to the third Stretch and Strengthen class. Today we're going to be doing a few exercises and stretches to help our shoulders and our arms. Now today's session is more about injury prevention, so we're not going to be doing a whole heap of muscle building kind of stuff, but the exercises I've got in today's program are able to be used to help build your muscle. It's just we're going to be working with some very light weights, so you probably won't find that they'll make you big and bulky. So as I said, we need some weights for today. I've got my two little dumbbells on the floor there. We also have a chair for one of the exercises, and I've got a tabletop and a piece of wall right next to me here, which we'll bring in for some of the stretches, but you won't really need anything in particular there. So starting off with, we're just going to do a few warm-up exercises. So you can stand or sit for this. I'm already sitting, so I may as well just stay. I'm just going to warm up through the shoulders and just moving, rolling through. Remember, it's always good to do some movement stretches before you start any exercise. These are also called dynamic stretches, as they help get the blood flow through the muscles and just help to warm them up before we start working them. So just a few gentle rolls. And then if we just put our hands on our shoulders, we're just going to do that again, but we're going to move our arms in a more of a circle. Getting some nice movement through that front of chest. We did this one last week as well for our neck, week before last. This is also good to help just open up through the chest, which can help if you've got any neck pain, but we're going to be working the shoulders now, so it's a little bit different. And then from here, we're going to put our arms up by our sides. We're just going to do very gentle rotation movements. You can do both shoulders at the same time, or if it's getting a bit difficult for you to hold up, you can just drop one and do one at a time. I like to do these without weights, but some people like to do them with very light weights, especially if they're doing some power exercises, but today we're taking it easy, so we can just go without. And bringing your arms by your side, we're just going to do a few in and outs, more rotation. Make sure you try to overlap in the middle there. Go one hand on top of the other and alternate. So it's good to warm up through these movements because it warms up our rotator cuff muscles in our shoulders. These are very small muscles, so they like to be nice and warm before we work them, which is actually going to be our first exercise. So I thought I'd give them a bit of a warm up first. Hopefully no pain as well. If you do have any pain throughout these exercises as well, remember, it's not going to help if you hurt yourself more. So if you're feeling pain, I ask that you could please just stop, relax, take a break, and just do whatever feels comfortable. All right, now that our shoulders are all warmed up, you can also give your wrists a bit of a roll. We're not going to do too much on the wrists. We'll be focusing more on the arms up here, but we'll still give them a warm up. They might feel a bit sore after the long day. And once you feel good, we're going to lay down. So coming onto the ground, if you've got your weights nearby, someone on my video just there has a tin can of beans, which I thought was quite cool. I've never even thought of that. So we're going to lie down on our side now. We're going to use the top hand first, and we're just going to do some gentle rotator cuff exercises for the shoulders. So we're going to pick the weight up with our elbow on our hip, and we're going to externally rotate through that shoulder cuff muscle. So making sure that you're keeping your arm at 90 degrees. We're not kind of going out straight and all floppy. We're elbow to the hip, and we're very much controlling it. And if you're finding the weight's a bit too heavy, you're probably right, because this is a small muscle exercise, so you really don't need much weight. If you've got some water bottles as weight, you can just tip some water out and then continue on. So we'd probably do about 10 to 15 reps of these, depending on when you start to fatigue. You might start to feel that little muscle in your shoulder up here start to get a bit tired, maybe burn a little bit. If it's burning, that's okay. If it's sharp shooting pain, that's probably not okay, so it might be best to just give it a bit of a rest and then come back to it. And if you're feeling like me and it's starting to feel a little bit nice and warm, we can have a rest there. And we're actually going to come onto our side again. You might want to hold your head or have a pillow. I haven't got a pillow, so I'm just going to float my head, and we're going to do the other arm now. So in this position, we're going to internally rotate our shoulder. So the other arm now, we're just doing the opposite movement so that we can do them all in one go. So this is working through those internal rotators in the shoulder. It's a different type of muscle. There are external and internal. And it's good to work them all because these small muscles, they can play a big part in the movement of your shoulder. And if we have really strong outer muscles but weak inner muscles, that can tend to leave the joint not very supported. So it's good to just give these a bit of a work every now and again. So again, just doing about 10 to 15 reps whenever you feel like it's starting to give your shoulder a bit of a workout. It's funny, my program has a pillow in it, but I forgot to bring one. Be careful if you're floating your neck here. And relax. Coming up, we're going to change over to the other side now and do the other arms. So starting with that top hand onto your side, I like to support my neck like this. You might want to have a pillow on that side if that's comfortable for you, but it's up to yourself. So in this position again, we're going to make sure our body is straight, knees at 90 degrees, make sure your feet are just behind your bottom, and keeping your elbow close to your hip, we're just going to externally rotate that shoulder again. So again, this is a really small movement. We're not looking at building any big chunks of muscle here. It's purely just for that kind of small muscle movement and injury prevention in that area. So I'm doing it with a dumbbell. You can also do this exercise with a stretchy band, but obviously stretchy bands aren't as common as just weights. So I thought we'd do them with the weights. But if you've got a stretchy band, you can easily do this by tying it against a doorknob and pulling in that same direction in this movement, just pulling away from you. Make sure you're not tensing up through your shoulders while you do this. You don't want to be super tied up in the neck trying to get through these exercises. If you're feeling like you're fatiguing and the muscles are starting to get a bit weak and you're compensating on another muscle, it's time to swap. On that note, swapping to the other side. So remember, if you've got your head not on a pillow, make sure you're not floating it like I am. Probably not the best example to show. I've just got my hand here supporting. We're just going to go through a few internal rotations for this arm, and then we'll move to the next exercise. We're just going to do each exercise today for one set. This session's more about showing you the correct technique rather than getting your bodies and muscles working. So you can use this advice that I'm giving you to kind of work out your own program, however many sets you want to do. I recommend about 2 or 3 maximum. This isn't a high rep, high set kind of thing. It's more of a complete this twice a day kind of thing. Make sure that elbow is as close as you can get to your body. Obviously it's not going to be able to get super close. And one more, and we'll relax there. Jumping up. So if you've got your little program like I've got mine on the wall there, we're going to move on to the next exercise. So this one, we're going to stand for this one. We're just going to have the 2 weights in our hands, and this one's called a lateral raise. So holding both weights, shoulders back and down, holding your core quite tight. We're just going to lift up each arm. And it's just a very simple movement, but the idea is control. So we're not trying to swing our arms around and get that movement like going really fast. We're trying to go really controlled. And I don't know if you remember from my previous sessions, but the movement going down is the most important, because that movement when you're going down accounts for a lot of the strength that we have in our muscles. I think it's called the concentric phase, and you actually have more potential to build strength in your concentric phase than you do in the lifting phase, which Wouldn't really know, wouldn't really think that, would you? But make sure you're going slow down. Usually probably do about 10 to 15 again of these. I've got very light weights because this is quite a small muscle we're working. We're working through the deltoids in the shoulder here, as well as some of the upper traps. If straight arms are getting a bit difficult for you though, and even just starting out, you can try them with bent arms and do them a little bit more bent. So you can have your arms at 90 degrees or a bit more out. It's up to you, whatever feels comfortable. But once we've done about 10 to 15, I think I did a bit more than that, we'll move on to the next exercise. I always like to change exercises throughout the set, so I do one then the other. Obviously we're only doing one set of each this time, but I would recommend, if you did say the side one, we're going to do front raises now. So if you can, try and do them together. So you do 10 to 15 of the side raises, and then 10 to 15 of the front raises, and then go back to the side raises. And that's what you call a superset. So with this one, we still want to have our shoulders down. When we're lifting up, you don't really want to have your shoulders up by your ears, so keep them down, keep your core nice and tight, make sure your knees aren't fully locked out as well. These muscles are a good one to work if you've ever put a doona cover on a doona. If you ever notice how hard that can be sometimes, how fatigued your shoulders get just trying to get that bloody thing in the doona. This is a good exercise to help, because as you can see, that movement of the doona where you lift it up, you're kind of simulating it with this. Or even hanging out the washing, that's another one. The next exercise we'll do will be good for that. Once you've done as many as you feel comfortable, or you're starting to feel a bit fatigued, give it a bit of a rest. It's always good to just move your shoulders in between exercises as well. It gets the blood flow going and helps remove any waste products or lactic acid that can be a bit painful the next couple of days. Now I'm going to sit down for this next one. So say you did those two exercises twice, 2 sets each, 15 reps each, we can move on to the next exercise. So this one is a shoulder press. So this is good for hanging out the washing, doing anything above the shoulders. So we're going to place the weights right on our shoulder tips, making sure our elbows are out, and very controlled, we're just going to press up, touch the weights at the top, or if you're comfortable touching them, and going back down. So this is just a simple shoulder press. So you can do this with dumbbells like I've got. It's better to start off with dumbbells because that builds up the strength in each individual arm. And then you notice the people in the gyms with the bars, and they push those big heavy weights above their head with the bar. And that bar just means that their body is working in a collective strength. But this way we're actually working each individual arm, and they do different things. So try and, if you can, and you can see yourself in the mirror like I can, try and synchronize your arms. You might notice that one arm goes up a bit quicker than the other. That is normal. But if you can get yourself in front of a mirror doing this sort of stuff, you can see your arms are going even. That's better technique. So with this one again, we're trying not to put our shoulders up into our ears. Squeeze through your shoulder blades as well while you're doing this exercise. That can help to reinforce that movement. And also hold through your core. And try not to look up or to the side or anything if you can as well. So keep your neck nice and long, chin down, and core tummy tight. So again, about 10 to 15 of these. I'm going very slow with mine. You don't have to go slow, you don't have to go fast, it's whatever pace you feel comfortable. Have a short little break. We're going to go on to the next exercise. So if we know these muscles here, these ones at the back of our arms, the ones that we like to be nice and toned, they're called our triceps. So this exercise is going to be good for these triceps now. So it's a bit of a weird movement, but we did it last week where we bent over and did a row. This time we're going to bend over, making sure our back is straight. Arms are going to be at 90 degrees. Now you can do this one arm at a time, but I've got two in case you want to give that a go. Make sure your feet are hip width apart, knees bent over, and we're going to kick our arms out. Perfect. And then bring them back in, keeping your elbows at almost the same place while you're doing this. Now I'm looking off to the side. Try not to look off to the side if you can. Keep your neck straight, otherwise you might get a little bit imbalanced. Obviously it's a bit harder if you've got the mirror there, I understand, but try and keep that nice controlled movement. And remember, half of it is when it's coming back as well. It's not just the pushing motion, it's also the release motion. Now you might find that you get quite fatigued because our triceps are not always the strongest. So you're probably wondering, why are we strengthening up the muscles? What help does it do? By strengthening your muscles, you're actually surrounding that joint with nice and strong muscles. And say if you were to have to catch something, or you might have to push yourself out of the way for something, those muscles are going to be the biggest things that help you reduce the risk of injuring your joints, because the muscles help support the joint and make it like pretty much ready for anything. So that's why it's always good to strengthen up. It's not just about building muscle and looking ripped, it's also about helping our bodies. And once you've done about 10 to 15 of those, you can have a break. And you might stand up and you might feel, oh, a little bit of a tightness in those triceps. They're fun to work. Now, the next exercise we're going to do is a bicep curl. So again, you can do it one hand at a time. We've only got light weights. But we're just going to do arms, hands facing forward. Make sure your arms are straight. Elbows are in your sides. And we're going to keep the elbows digged into our side bodies. And we're going to push up through our biceps. Now remember, I don't know if you guys have seen, but sometimes I see at the gym ladies with very big weights and they're fully swinging into it. So they're going right into it. That isn't going to get you anywhere. So making sure your elbows are tight to your body and you're keeping that movement going very slow and controlled. And while you're at the bottom as well, just give your tricep a little bit of a squeeze. Squeeze that tricep, squeeze it at the top, release, squeeze the tricep, come back up, squeeze and release. So by squeezing your tricep when you're fully extended at the bottom, it's just helping to reinforce that muscle movement, and it helps increase the work you're doing, the workload. If you find that the weights are a bit too light with this exercise, you can always up the weight. Bicep curls are one of those ones that you can do a little bit more of. It's the shoulders that we want to stick to the lighter stuff. I know we're only doing one set each, but I don't know about you guys, my arms are feeling pretty burny. We're going to do a few more exercises now, and then we'll go into some stretches, and then we'll be finished for the day. So not long to go. And once you've done about, I'd say 15 of those ones, if you've got lightweight, a bit shorter if you've got heavyweight, it's up to you. Whenever you feel fatigued, that's usually a good point to say, yep, that is enough for me. We're going to move on to the next exercise. So coming down now onto our backs, we're going to do some chest exercises. Now last week we focused on stretching through the chest, because having a tight chest can sometimes make your neck a bit tighter. It's not to say that you can't work your chest, because it's still important to work the muscles, and it probably will help. Once you've worked them, we can stretch them, and you might find that you get a bit more length through them as well. So the first exercise we're going to do is a chest press. Now on the picture on my program, you're on a ball. We're just going to do it on the floor today because it's a bit easier. I like to have my feet in the air. By having my feet in the air, it helps to increase the work that we're doing on the body, so it makes you work your core muscles a bit more too, just because this is quite a small exercise. So you're welcome to have your feet in the air, or if you want, you can just have them down. But we're going to have the hands right in front of our chest, bringing the weights down around about nipple height and then back up. So this is called a chest press. You probably see people do it on a bench more often. If you've got a bench at home, that's perfect. Make sure you try and do it on there if you can. But otherwise, if you've just got a floor, this is just as good. You'll still get a workout. Just means that your arms won't be able to go as low. So again with this, if you've got a mirror in front of you, try and synchronize your arms. I don't think mine look very good right now. Make sure your knees are at 90 degrees if you've got your feet up. If you've got them down, you're just holding them a little bit, you're not going to get much of work in your back, in your core. You can go as fast or slow as this with this one as you want. And again, if you've got lightweight, you could probably afford to go a bit higher in the reps. So you could even do more than 15 if you felt comfortable. If this is your first time doing exercise, I probably wouldn't push it too much until you can build up the strength, otherwise you might be very sore the next day. Which, by the way, if you do feel sore the next day, that is very normal. It can go up to 3 days long feeling sore, but if it's longer than 3 days and you're still in agony, it might be something else, so it might be worth just getting it checked out. But remember, if you do have injuries, this class is probably not for you because the exercises aren't tailored for your injury. They're basic general exercises in order to help reduce the risk of injury. So make sure you see a physio or a medical professional before you give any exercise a go with an injury. Okay, I think I've done a lot of those, so moving on to the next exercise. The next one, we're going to stay in the same position. You can have your feet in the air or again on the ground. This one's another chest exercise. It's just a bit different. So it's called a chest fly. So that one was a press. This one is a fly. So we're going to hold our hands now vertical to our body or perpendicular. You can have your feet up again if you want. I'm going to give it a go. And we're just going to lower our hands to our sides in a fly motion and back up. Now you can do this with straight arms, or you can go a bit more bent, which means that only your elbows get to the floor. But if you go fully straight, that means you'll be able to get your whole arm on the floor. But that also means you're going to be working your chest muscle a lot harder. It's up to you wherever you're at. Feel around for the exercise. If it's a bit hard with straight arms, maybe just start on the bent arms and then you can work your way into having straight. But if you can, try and synchronize again your arm. The slower you do the exercise, the better it is for you. When you start getting into those powerlifting and the powerful kind of movements, that's when we're focusing a little bit more on building muscle, which is probably not where you're at if you're doing this class. This class is nice and easy and it's supposed to be for injury prevention. If you've got your feet up in the air, remember that lower back needs to be right on the floor. If you've got a gap, say if you can see my back and I've got a gap now under my back, that's not going to help. So make sure your lower back's right down on that floor. You might be starting to shake, that's okay, I'm with you. Just do a couple more of these and then that finishes our exercise portion of today's class. One more. And resting there. Great work, guys. That is the exercise portion done. We're going to move now onto some stretches. So if we would like to stand up, we're just going to do a few. I'm just going to flip my program over. You can see it on the wall here. So we're going to start off with an exercise to stretch through our biceps. Now there's a couple ways of doing it. I do have a table just here which I'm going to move forward. So this table, if you've got a tabletop nearby or if you've got a chair nearby, we're just going to place our hands on the table to be able to stretch through our biceps. Now there are a few ways of stretching your biceps, which could be, in a wrist stretch kind of way, but I like to do it on either a floor or a table, and we're just going to place our hands, hopefully no pain in the wrists, onto the table. And if you can, get your palms down with your fingers facing your body and then pulling away from your wrists. So I'm going towards my fingertips. And you might feel, if you've got straight arms, hopefully feel it through the biceps. You might feel it through the wrists and the forearms, but the biceps is fully extended here. If this is really hurting your wrist, I'd advise to stop, but otherwise I'm getting a nice stretch through this front of arm. And obviously the straighter your arms, the better. So it's always good to hold stretches for 30 seconds. And relax. Give your wrists a bit of a stretch after that. Can be a bit tight there. And if it helps, maybe give it a little bit more with your hands. You might just be able to get that little bit more out of the biceps, but these biceps, they're quite hard to stretch. They're not unless you're very hypermobile, they're not very easy. The joint doesn't really go much past where it is right now, so it's not one of those ones where you can be quite inflexible in your biceps, unless your arms are permanently like this. Then stretching your biceps would do something. The next one we're going to do is just in front. This is a good one for our shoulders, our back, our upper back, as well as a bit of our forearms. You might want to lift it above your head. That might also feel quite nice. And then bending over in that same way, you might just feel it a little bit more through that upper back. And coming back up. Now, I've got another prop to my right here. If you've got a wall or a piece of wall nearby, hopefully it'll be enough. We're just going to place both hands on the wall and we're just going to lean into it. And my top is one of those ones that are open at the back, so don't mind me, it's not falling off. We're just going to put our hands on the wall and slowly bring our body lower than our hands if you can do so. With this one, try and keep your back straight. So if you can see my back, I'm trying to have a little less of a rounded curve, like not like this, but more straight. And you should feel that through the chest and the shoulders. That's quite a nice one. You can do that anywhere at home. And coming up, just give yourself a bit of a rock. Hopefully that feels quite nice. You can also do that at work on the tabletop. You can slide your hands out, placing your head on the table. That can also feel quite nice. Now just hands behind our back, another one for our shoulders and our chest. Going to straighten our arm and just pushing our chest out while also squeezing through our shoulder blades. Take a few deep breaths while you do these stretches. Imagine the area in your body that you want to stretch and make a little bit looser. Sometimes it does help to focus on that area. If you're here and you want to do it, you can do a few little neck rolls as well. And once you've held it for 30 seconds, we'll go to the next one. So I'm going to get down on one knee now. Don't get excited. We're just going to place our hand in 90 degrees. You can stay standing. I've just got not a so high wall, so stay standing if you can. And we're just going to stretch through the chest, keeping our elbows at 90 degrees. We're going to do that by putting our elbow, getting that friction on the wall, and we're going to twist away from that. So you should feel this. Hopefully the elbow is at the same level as your shoulder, so make sure if it's a bit low that it's up a bit higher. And just twisting, you should feel it through your chest. So we worked the chest and now we're stretching it. So hopefully the blood will be in there and it'll be able to be moved a lot nicer. And if you've held that for 30 seconds, we'll go over to the other side. Just going to go over here. So elbow at 90 degrees and twisting away. You might find one side is tighter than the other. That is normal. Remember to take a few deep breaths while we do this. And relax, shaking it off. Now if you've got a tea towel or something nearby that might help if this hurts your shoulders, we're going to lift both hands above our head and we're going to push our elbow down. So this is a really good stretch to stretch through that tricep. Now if this is a bit too sore for you to have both elbows above your head, you can get a tea towel, or in this case I'm going to use a remote because that's what I've got nearby. And you can grab onto the remote or the tea towel with one hand and pull with the other. The tea towel helps if you can't touch your hands behind your back. But the idea is that we're pulling or pushing this arm down, which helps stretch through our triceps. Now you might find that your triceps are quite tight. That is normal. It's not good, but they do get quite tight if we're sitting at a desk all day, if we're driving all day. They can get quite tight, and it might also make your neck tight as well. So that's why it's good to stretch through these muscles, because our bodies, they are all combined, like all the muscles are interconnected. One muscle tight means usually some other muscle is down the track is tight as well because of that other tight muscle. So it's important, even if you don't have these other pains, stretching through every muscle in your body every day if you can. And change hands if you haven't already. I'm going to put my tea towel on the bench there and I'm going to change sides. Now if you can touch your back, your hands behind your back, then you can do it that way and you can hold on to your hands. Looks like this side I can't. I think the other side I can. You'll probably find one is usually better than the other. But keep breathing. These muscles are probably one of my tightest on my body, so this is giving me quite a bit of pain, but it's not bad pain, it's just a stretch. If you're getting very shooting, increased, intense pain through your triceps doing this, it might be time to just take a break. And a good way to try and get some length through your muscles is to get some heat in there before you stretch it. So we did a workout, but if you're not doing the exercise portion, you could maybe put some heat on your arm, not fire or anything, maybe just a heat pack, a wheat bag, get it on there, get some blood flow, and then do this stretch. That might help. Cool, and take a break, lowering your arms down, give it a bit of a stretch. We're going to do a shoulder stretch now. So one arm is going to come across our body and this next arm is going to come up, and we're just going to use that to pull this shoulder. So you should feel this through those deltoids. It might not be tight for all, it might be tight for some, but this is a really good standard shoulder stretch that you can do. And it's important to keep the thumb facing upwards on this hand that is out. Good. You might also feel it through the back of the shoulder blades. That's another spot where it stretches as well. So stretching is one of those things that we have to do every day, because if our muscles are very tight, that usually means if something happens, they're not going to be as flexible. They might tear or cause an injury. So it's always important to have increased or as much flexibility as possible. It's something that is one of the most overlooked things when it comes to doing exercise. So that's why it's important to keep on top of it. Other arm now, bringing it across your body, thumb up, and just giving it a gentle pull with that other arm. Remember, we do warm-up exercises at the start where we're moving, stretching, and at the end of exercise we do these static holds. big deep breaths. Got one more stretch after this and then we're finished. Okay, last one. We're going to grab our wrist with our hand, and very gently we're going to pull it towards the hand that is grabbing the wrist, and we're going to tilt our neck in the same direction as that hand. So I don't know if you can see, I've got my hand grabbing my wrist, my right hand, and I'm going to move off to my right side. So at the same time as just gently pulling that on, I'm also tilting my neck. And you'll probably find this just gets you a bit of an extra stretch through that neck and through that shoulder. Ooh, I don't have very much range of motion at all. So you should feel this through that left side of the neck if you've got your right hand grabbing your left arm. Otherwise the opposite if you're on the other one. And then we'll change sides, bringing it over, pulling gently and just our neck off to the side. And if you've held that for about 30 seconds, we'll release and shake it off. Thank you guys. That is the end of our class. I hope you liked it and I hope your arms and your shoulders are feeling nice and loose and strong now. Remember to do this program if you have issues with your shoulders, or you might have issues and there's a bit of weakness there. It's good to do it maybe 3 times a week on top of some cardio exercise if you want as well. But otherwise, I'll see you next week. We're doing some stretches and exercises for our hips and our knees. So we're going to do some leg exercises. That'll be fun, but I hope you enjoyed today and see you next week.